Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining from the many places from which you are joining. I'm Wendy Haines, and I'm a somatic coach and a teacher here at Strozzi, and it's really my pleasure to be here with you this morning. Really, as we start, I just want to present us all to this moment on the planet here, and just name that we continue to navigate this global pandemic and all of the many ways that it impacts us. Also navigating kids going back to school. I know I'm in that mode personally, and we're all here on this shared planet amidst the climate crisis and seeing the impact there with fires in the West and floods in other parts of the country, and Haiti, earthquake, hurricanes. There's everything that's happening in Iraq, the continued impact of war. And I just want to welcome anything else that anyone is wants to present here, so that we're aware not only of our own individual experience, but recognize that we're all navigating life here on this planet together. So please feel free to put in the chat anything else you'd like to presence here. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so let me give you a brief overview of our time together. I have the aspiration to get us through a lot this morning. So we'll start with an opening practice, and then we're going to go into a deeper exploration around our conditioned tendencies. If that is not a familiar term to you, it's really what reactions come out of us when we're under pressure. To explore this domain really from the place of how do we actually befriend these outmoded habits that we have. And then I hope to bring us around at the end to another practice as well. So I'm going to invite us right away into our opening practice. And why don't you just drop your attention down into the body and just feel for this morning, what's your preferred position to do our opening practice? And we'll start with centering. And so if it feels right and it works for your body to stand, I welcome you to stand. And if it feels better to stay seated or even lying down as an option, feel free. So listen in and move into the position that's going to work best for you this morning. I'm going to go ahead and stand up. Adjust my camera a little bit here. All right. So we center in this methodology to become more present, open, connected, and on purpose. And so as we drop in, we want to just bring our attention down into sensation and just meet ourselves right where we are. And with a mood of curiosity, just begin to notice, what are the most prominent sensations happening in you right now? Maybe there's energy moving. Maybe you feel places of constriction. But just let's do a scan from the top of the head, moving down through the body and just noticing. Just getting present here to what is. We're not looking to change anything. We can certainly be responsive. So if you come to a place and it feels like, oh, there's an ask for a little stretch or an adjustment or a wiggle, feel free. Settling down in, moving down through the belly if you haven't gotten there yet. Down through the hips, whether you're standing or seated. Just noticing what's there, and then down through the upper legs, knees, lower legs, and then all the way down into our feet. And as we feel down into our feet, see if you can feel from the inside of your feet the sensation at the bottom of your feet. So how is the pressure distributed on your feet? How are your feet in contact with the ground? Can you notice any textures, even temperatures that are present in your feet? And next, we're going to center into 4 dimensions. The first is our length. And so as we center into our length, let's build from our feet up through the structure of our skeleton and feel for a sense of rising up through this structure. You can check to make sure that your knees are a little bit soft if you're standing. And then you can feel for your hips in relation to your ankles. If you're seated, you can feel for your hips really coming into contact with the chair underneath you. And then as we get to the spine, let's rise up the spine and invite a little bit of space between each and every vertebrae. We might notice the quality of breath that's happening in the body and start to invite it a little bit deeper down into our belly. And then when we get to our shoulders, you might explore what it might be like to tuck your shoulder blades into your back pockets. And just feel for a lengthening across the shoulder blades and feel for the arm bones all the way down through your wrists and fingertips, hanging loose and long. And then come back to the neck, inviting that space between the vertebrae up through your neck and then up into the head. So feeling for a sense of rising up through and come all the way to the top of your head. And much in the same way we felt with our feet, let's feel for the air as it meets the top of our head. And then feel for how it is to just take up a little bit more space between the bottom of our feet and the top of our head, centering into our length. And then with your next natural exhalation, just invite all of the tissues, the ligaments, even the organs to settle down onto this structure. So as we center into our length, we're lengthening up and we're also settling down at the same time. We hold that our length is a domain of dignity. So you might feel for your own dignity here. Whatever that means for you, wherever that resonates inside of you, just make contact with your dignity. And now we're going to shift and center into our second dimension here of width. And this is the side-to-side dimension. Some of you may be totally familiar with this, and others it may be brand new. But feel for a deep center line inside your body. And if it's helpful, you can just ever so subtly shift from side to side and feel for or sense yourself really filling yourself out fully side to side so that you're inhabiting this full dimension inside your physical body. With your next breath, you might feel for the width dimension in your lungs. And if it feels helpful, next time you get to your right side, just hang out there for a moment and feel all the way out to the edges of your right side. The sensation of clothing there, where it meets your skin, the temperature of the air as it meets the right side of your body. And then let's shift slowly, filling ourselves in as we go and shift over to the left side, hang out there for a moment. Feel for sensation on the left side. Maybe there's a different temperature happening over there. And then shift back to center so that you Feel an equal weight distribution either on the bottom of your feet or on your sit bones. And then we can extend out beyond the physical body. So feel for that, taking up a little bit more space in this width dimension today. Maybe you extend out a foot and just feel for, notice how you do that. And then maybe 2 feet. And then maybe there's something in your space that's alive, like a plant or an animal, or maybe there's another human there. And just feel for what it might be like to extend your width out to include that. We hold this as our relational space. This is the domain of belonging. And so as we include others in our width, we're really extending belonging to them. And then here we are stretched out all over the world, this particular fabric of humans that are gathered here this morning together. So let's just see how it might be to extend your width out to include everybody here on this call today. Just feel for and notice how you might do that, including everyone. And then note that you've just been included by everyone on the call. So how do you allow yourself not only to extend belonging to others, but also to open and allow yourself to be included? Notice how that is. Great. And now we're going to shift to center into our depth. That is our back body, our front body. So start to shift your attention. Maybe you rock ever so subtly forward and back to just kind of engage more of a felt sense here in the back body and front body. And then next time you come to the back, just rest all of your attention into the substance of your back body. Just make contact with the big muscles that hold your spine erect. The back of your brain, big muscles in our butt and our hamstrings, even our calves. We are forward-looking organisms, so we spend a lot of time with a lot of attention in our front body, where our devices are and our steering wheels are. So really rest into the back body. And then feel for the air at your back. And stretched out behind us is the path that we've walked up until now. All of the wisdom gathered, all the experiences, all the wins, all the times we've fallen and gotten back up. All of those who have our back. Just presence that. And then as if we could allow all of that in, let yourself shift now, letting all of that fill your physical body, all of this depth we house within. And then bring your attention to the front body, substance of the front body, front of the heart, the organs in the belly, big muscles on the front of our legs, our throat, face. And we're facing into our future depth, this open field of possibility. And if you're someone who's working a declaration, or even if it feels useful to plant a seed of intention for the remainder of our time together or your day, let's place that into this future field. And then bring your left hand to your lower belly. Thumb might be right at your belly button, and then just let the palm fall, making contact here with your own center. Center of gravity. And if it feels useful, you can take the other hand and place it at your lower back. And then drop down inside and feel for those hands making contact. Locating yourself in your center. Again, if you're someone working a current declaration, you'll know what that means, and you can speak that out loud or to yourself. And or feel free to bring to heart and mind something that matters to you. Someone, something, a pet, or even a place. And just notice what that might generate inside your felt senses. Then when you feel the impulse, you can let your hands fall again at your sides. And just feel for center as a whole. Here we are in the fullness of our dignity and our belonging and our depth, on purpose, in utilizing our focus into an intention or a declaration to organize us. And when you feel the impulse, I invite everybody to raise your hands out to your sides. Maybe reignite a felt sense of taking up more space here in our width. And now I invite everybody to turn your palms up. And as you do this, bring your attention to your heart. And however it feels possible, open your heart, even if it's 3% more. A felt sense of opening your heart. And then bring to heart and mind someone you love. You might even engage your imagination as you do this and notice how you can bring them into focus. What do you see about them? What can you smell about them? What can you hear or touch or even taste if appropriate? And just notice what that brings to life inside of you. And then extend this love out into the palms of your hands. And then in whatever position feels right inside of you, extend that love right out to them. And now take these loving palms and extend this love right into yourself. And just notice how you might be able to open yourself even 3, 4, or 5% more to receive this. And notice any sensation or mood or even thoughts that brings online for you. And as you feel the impulse, you can release that. And let's come back together. And let's just take a moment and place our mood into the chat. Just a word that expresses your current mood. Soft, relaxed, sad, grounded. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for all of that. Awesome. Okay. So thank you for that beautiful opening practice. Great to be with you all. We're going to shift here to kind of the meat of our time together. And I want to lay a little bit of groundwork. I know some of you on the call are first timers. Welcome. And what we're going to be talking about, I'll use the term conditioned tendency, or CT, with some frequency here. And really, this is one of the things that we work with frequency inside of embodied transformation and somatic work. Ultimately, our conditioned tendency is the habit, the behavior, even the mood or thought pattern that might show up automatically when we're under pressure. And when we're talking about embodied transformation, we're talking about moving or working through our body to ultimately achieve true and lasting change. What we're up to is really building the self that can align with and fulfill on what we most care about. Another term that I'm going to use with frequency is soma. So somatics, soma is the root word. It's a Greek word, and the closest translation is the living organism in its wholeness. So when I talk about soma and soma in relationship to embodied transformation, we're talking about really harnessing all of this wisdom that lives in the body, in sensation. The soma also includes our moods, our emotions, and even our thoughts, that we're harnessing all of that. We're working through all of that to achieve this true and lasting change. A little bit more about conditioned tendencies. We're historical beings. What that means is that throughout the course of our life, we've organized ourselves. We've responded and to life, to our circumstances, ultimately to organize, to be safe, to belong, and to be dignified. And so over the course of our life, we've had circumstances where the wisdom of us ascertained, okay, given all of these conditions, here's the best way to take care of our safety. Here's the best way to react to these circumstances to take care of our belonging and or our dignity. And so these become habits. These become ways that then we show up whenever there's pressure or threat or even perceived pressure. We go into this very practiced way of being in order to take care of those very important things. And here's the thing, those strategies worked, because here we are. Here we are, they worked. But they can become very outmoded. They're really born of a much younger version of ourselves. And so we may find ourselves reacting in life current day in a way where we're like, oh, why did I do that again? That wasn't how I wanted to show up. That's not aligned with who I'm really committed to being. That's not aligned with my values, my current day values. And so sometimes we can even develop judgments or be in a grapple or embattled with these habits or behaviors. And so we're like working against them. And in order to transform, we must come to terms with these outmoded habits and reactions. We must come to terms with them. If we don't, those behaviors and reactions will keep persisting. In fact, the harder that we grapple with them or embattled with them, the harder they're going to work to take care of the very thing that they are fundamentally trying to take care of. So really modern psychology has talked about these concepts for a long time, but what somatics brings into the conversation is the recognition that these habits actually live in our tissues. And so to kind of move beyond these habits and to create the space for new, more updated habits to be available to us, we have to recognize that those habits live in our tissues, that this change is not a mental process. Those habits activate on a physical level first. So we want to go there to get to know them. We want to go there to befriend them, which is kind of the word of the day. How do we befriend these outmoded habits? So we're going to start here just very briefly writing about, and you can write with paper. I see some of you are taking notes already. You can write with paper, or if you're a device person, feel free to explore this on your device. But I want us to hone in on a particular outmoded habit or behavior that you'd like to bring into this exploration, something specific. So I'm going to give you some prompts and just write and just note what comes forward so that we can zoom in on what we want to work with today. And these might be default actions that we take. They may be default moods. They can even be default thoughts or thought patterns. So what part of you, what habit or pattern do you struggle with? And what's a recent time that you reacted in a way that wasn't aligned with how you'd like to respond? Maybe you noticed yourself in a certain circumstance getting really rigid. Maybe you were purposefully stretching into a new action outside your comfort zone and you noticed yourself withdraw or implode or get small. Maybe you found yourself in, a pressurized or high stakes conversation and you just checked out, disappeared, or maybe even left. Or maybe you find yourself grappling with or struggling with a mood, a habitual mood that's not generative or aligned with how you'd really like to be experiencing life. And then you can just kind of bring to a close the writing. And just be present to what's here, even as we start to put our attention on this outmoded habit. And what we want to do, like if we were talking about a scale of 1 to 10, what we want to do is really invite the felt experience of what happens inside of you when that reaction happened. And not up to a 10, like explore it up to a 4 or a 5. And as you do so, really be with yourself, be down in your felt senses as much as you can, and get curious. Like, oh yeah. If it helps to really zoom in, even on a particular moment inside that experience, like if you could freeze frame the reaction itself and just recall it and get curious about what you notice happens inside of you. Do you notice your breath change? Do you notice any place where you feel contraction? Do you notice a total absence of sensation? Do you notice extra energy moving in any particular way? Staying curious, noticing, just investigating what are all the things that I can recognize and now come to know that happen inside of my tissues, inside of my soma when this reaction happens. You may even notice like a sense of armoring. And then you can feel for that place in you that reacts. Is it moving in any particular direction? Like, is it moving inward? Is it moving outward? Is it moving forward or against something? Just feel for the subtlety or maybe not so subtlety of that. And as we're exploring this to just a 4 or a 5 on a scale, I just want to remind everyone this is totally normal, right? We all have these embodied habits. They all pop out now and again when we're under certain kinds of pressure. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong or broken inside of us. They're just practiced. Our tissues have practiced this for a long time. And at its root, it's really been trying to take care of something essential for you. It's really just been trying to take care of safety, belonging, and or dignity from way back. So to normalize it, there's nothing to fix here. We're just staying curious. Good. You're doing good, everyone. So to keep moving into this concept of befriending, we want to move it from a concept into actually a felt sense. So first, let's rub our hands together. And then you can take your palms a little bit apart and just feel the sensation that's happening there in your palms. And then tap back into the love that we connected to in our centering practice. And we're going to make contact with the location in the body where this reactive place happens. And so you're free to stand if it feels like you can get more of a felt sense of all of you. It's totally fine to stay seated as well. But let's take these loving hands and actually make contact. Wherever it is on your body, just bringing that loving contact. And we want to keep listening to that reactive place. And we want to bring the curiosity of how is this contact? We want to feel for just the right placement. Like if I listen in, oh no, I'm getting the message. No, it's a little bit to the right. So feel for the contact where that reactive part of you goes, oh yeah, that feels good. And then we want to feel for the pressure in the same way. Is that the right amount of pressure? And then if we could also feel for the direction of our pressure. When we explored before what direction this energy might move in, and whether it was inward or outward or against, we can explore having the contact move in that same direction. And then again, check in and notice, what does that produce inside of that reactive place? And our intention here is to befriend. That's great. And now let's listen in even more and bring our curiosity to this part of us. And just get curious about what this has been trying to take care of. Is it safety? Is it belonging? Is it dignity? Or is it a combination of those? And in whatever way makes sense, like the curious self that's observing all of this, like let that land. Oh, got it. This reaction is ultimately committed to my safety. And then we want to listen in. So if we were to dignify this part of ourselves, to acknowledge it for what it's been trying to take care of for all this time, what might it want to hear? What words would feel resonant? And maybe it's as simple as, good job. You got me to here and now, good job. Or thank you. I really see you've been trying to take care of my dignity all this time. Thank you for your service. Or, I see you. I get it. And all of us are on mute here. So if it feels right to you, you might even try on how it is to say those words to it out loud. Try that on and just notice. Does it produce inside of this reactive part of you a sense of, oh, I feel seen, I feel acknowledged, I feel like I matter. And then lastly, here's the thing about our CTs, they never go away. We don't get rid of them. It's not about that. And body transformation isn't about getting rid of our conditioned tendencies. It's actually about how we transform our relationship to them. And so when and if we've been in a grapple or embattled with our conditioned tendencies, our outmoded habits, it can send the message to that habit that we're trying to exorcise them, that we're trying to banish them. And right now, I want you to try on how it might be to extend the offer to this part of you, to have a place in the house of you. Like maybe it wants a special seat at the table. That's not the head of the table. That isn't the driver's seat, but is a place of honor, recognizing you have skill. And we're going to give you a place of honor, and I'm going to call on you when I need your skill set. You belong here. Maybe it wants its own room in the house of you. Just let your felt sense and your imagination be in conversation with it so that it can also let you know what would feel honoring to it. And then this is just a little bonus thing for those that it might apply to, but you can let it know, I'm not trying to kill you off. I see you now. And I'm not trying to get rid of you. I'm actually here to befriend you. So give yourself the opportunity here to take a couple of breaths and just check in, notice and feel what's generating inside of you. And then let's reflect and note for ourselves how we just did that process. So where were you located inside of you as you were able to be curious about and show up in this caring way for the reactive part of you? Where were you located as you did that? And that can just be an insight about, oh yeah, when I'm in my observer self, when I'm more in my current day self, that's a place that I can go inside of me to access that. And then the steps that we took were to literally make contact with that reactive part of us. We listened for the location and the quality of touch that worked for that part of us that felt supportive. We let ourselves be curious about what it's trying to take care of. And then we were in a quality of communication with it where we brought our acknowledgement and appreciation to dignify it. Contact, curiosity, communicate. So this befriending is a way that we can come out of the grapple and the struggle, and we can come into a quality of relationship that actually softens this place, that softens the reactivity. As things soften inside of us, it creates more space. And in that space, we can access a wider range of options, new embodied habits that we're building within us, like center. The softening can give us more access to center so that then we can be centered current time, facing into whatever that current pressure is, and have more access to the self and the capacity that's lined up with what we care about and what we're committed to. So I want to be able to bring us around now to another practice that's really, this is a supportive practice, an affirmative practice. For those that are new on the call, in somatics, we work with the outmoded embodied habits, and we also simultaneously do practice on purpose to build new capacities and new skills, so that as the old softens, we already have new ground and new capacity and new choices that we've built into our nervous system on purpose that are more aligned with what we care about and what we want and who we want to show up to be. So this next practice is one of those affirmative type practices. And I invite you again to stand if you choose to. This practice can be done either standing or seated. And we do this practice for the sake of building into our nervous system the capacity to be connected to our longings, connected to what we are reaching for from a centered place. So I'm going to stand to show you. And if you're standing or if you're seated, I invite you to place one foot a little bit in front of the other. And our feet are shoulder width apart. And maybe like a foot and a half deep. This is the depth dimension. So we've got width and depth in our base. If you're seated in a chair, also just make contact with the ground with both your feet. Maybe you want to come to the front edge of the chair so that you can actually feel your base, your legs. And as we're here, we're just going to do the shortcut right back into center. So feel your full length, your width, your depth. You might make contact with center again. Oh yeah, that's where it is. And I want you to connect with something that you long for, something that really matters to you, something that you care about, or even something that you're on a committed path to reach, but it's still outside of your reach. And as you're ready, raise your arms up and open your heart. Explore still being dropped down and connected into your base and center. And breathe. Keep presencing what you long for and what matters to you. And keep noticing sensation, mood, even thoughts that this might surface. Connecting to your longing from center. And you can go ahead and release that. And just notice. And let's place our other foot forward. We're bilateral beings, so we're training our nervous system. Now with the left foot forward, here's how I stay centered as I reach for what I long for. Dropped down in, feeling your base, feeling your center, feeling your heart. And remembering to feel your back all at the same time. And then go ahead and let that go. Notice sensations, moods, thoughts. Notice if that feels familiar to you, to be able to stay centered and connect to your longing, or if that feels like, oh, my nervous system has not gotten a lot of opportunity or permission to really reach for what I long for. Whatever it is, it's all great information. And my invitation to you in here with this particular practice is, if it feels like, yeah, this is something that I'd like to really strengthen in my nervous system to add to my capacity, then try this practice on once a day for the next week and just notice. notice the impact. And if it's a positive impact, then keep going. And everyone come on back in. And I want to open it up here for the next 5 minutes or so for anything that anyone feels moved to share, or a question that you have about either of those places that we explored today, the befriending or CT, or the longing practice.
And if you can raise your hand using the reaction at the bottom of your screen, that would be wonderful. We can bring you off of mute.
Emily, I'm appreciating your comment in the chat. Any questions, any discoveries you'd like to share?
Vanessa?
I have a question about the befriending practice.
Yeah.
I love the language that you used around, giving the part a room in your house. I'm just curious what your thoughts are in terms of if the part wants a room in your house or a bigger space than you want it to have. Curious if you have any guidance on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for that question. A couple of things in here. First, to remember that our embodied habits originated in a very much younger self. And so if it feels like useful framing in this befriending relationship to actually trace back to the age that you were when that embodied habit started, it can give us more of a framing for this relationship. So if it's a 7-year-old that's demanding 99% of the space in the house, right, we can lovingly let it know, I know you want 99%. And I know that that's fueled by how important you know your job to be. And I'm the one who's here at the head of the table, and we're going to keep working with that, right? So that we come into dignifying, respectful, loving relationship, and for lack of a better word, like we're going to be the grown up, and we're gonna let that part know that that they belong and we care about them, but they don't get to drive the bus anymore. That helpful? I'm seeing more coming into the chat here too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the noticings inside of the practice. And practice is here to serve us, like that last practice that we just did. It's here to serve us in building that new capacity, in building the capacity to be centered as we reach for what we long for. And the practices themselves will surface anything that might be in the way of that, which is the good news. It's like, oh, well, their anxiety surfaced, and now I get to befriend anxiety. It's a yes and. Great. Appreciating here in the chat what you're all noticing. Yeah. Group of CTs being like a group of knights, warriors, superheroes with special powers and gifts. Yeah.
There's a question here, Wendy.
Yeah,
How do you work with dissociated? 1 second. Let me just
yeah,
into the chat.
yeah,
Dissociated tendencies.
yeah. Thanks, Karen. So working with, when we notice that we dissociate, we can get really curious about how we do that. Right? Dissociating is actually trying to take care of something foundational and important. And so we can notice, how do I do that? And even as you describe it out loud, like you can have this conversation out loud with yourself. Like, when I dissociate, I notice this. Or with a trusted person or support person in your life. And your body will reveal to you how you dissociate. The path out, right? We dissociate, we leave. And so you might notice even a hand gesture will reveal to you how you leave. And the way out is also your way back in. And so in the befriending process, that's where you can bring your attention and your care and your curiosity to notice fundamentally what it's trying to take care of.
This is such a wonderful practice, Wendy. I want to let you know that I have one seat open in this embodied transformation course beginning on beginning on Thursday. So if anyone wants to join quickly and do more than what Wendy is leaving us to, please. Additionally, there will be another course coming up in October, and I'm putting that in the chat as well. Another information, October 14th through the 7th, with Dara Silverman and Michael Calical. We also have somatic trauma and resilience, which goes much deeper inside of trauma and shame, which is a step beyond conditioned tendencies. You want to say something more about that course, Wendy?
Yeah, somatic trauma and resilience is so powerful. Such a beautiful place to learn about, explore, and really dive into those deeper places of trauma. We're talking about conditioned tendencies here. Trauma really is, it has like a deeper impact in our tissues. And so we dive more into survival strategies in the somatics trauma and resilience course to really look at how do we heal in these deeper places where the pressures were more dramatic and therefore elicited a much deeper seated and rooted survival strategy inside of us.
Mm-hmm. Also, we have another course that's going to be online, which is embodying equity. So this is doing this work, and we're talking about conditioned tendencies, right? Doing the work around liberation and justice and healing, which sometimes also is inside of our shaping and our conditioned tendencies across social and racial contexts. So for those who are in that level of work, you can join us online for an 11-week course. That will be led by Dara and Brooke Step. So lots of things going on here with Strozzi.
Thank you all so much. Great to be with you this morning. Thanks for your practice and your discoveries and your commitment to your own paths. Great to be with you.